Have you ever trusted someone completely, only to have that trust shattered in an instant? The moment that changes everything often comes without warning. For Olivia Turner, that moment arrived on a rainy Tuesday morning as she sat across from a woman she never thought she'd see again. The same woman who had once taken everything from her. I'd love to know which corner of the globe you're watching from. And if this story speaks to you, make sure to subscribe. Tomorrow's video is one you absolutely can't miss. What would you do if the person who betrayed you suddenly reappeared in your life, unaware that you remembered exactly what they did? Would you seek revenge, or would you find another way forward? This is a story about second chances, unexpected reunions, and the moment when past and present collide in the most unlikely of places. The corner office on the 32nd floor of the Morgan & Reed building had the kind of view people in Boston killed for. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the Charles River winding through the city like a blue ribbon, while sunlight glinted off glass skyscrapers and historic brownstones alike. Olivia Turner had earned this view, worked for it through years of sacrifices, late nights, and a determination that bordered on obsession. At 36, Olivia was the youngest chief financial officer in the company's history. Her desk was immaculate, her schedule managed down to the minute, her reputation for fairness matched only by her insistence on excellence. Anyone who knew Olivia now would describe her as confident, collected, and impossible to rattle. But that wasn't always true. 12 years earlier, Olivia had been a different person entirely. Fresh out of college with a finance degree and student loans that kept her awake at night, she'd been desperate for affordable housing in Boston's notoriously expensive market. The Craigslist ad had seemed like a miracle. A 2-bedroom apartment in Cambridge, walking distance to the financial district where her entry-level accounting job awaited. The rent was steep but manageable when split with a roommate. Enter Melissa Davis, charming, outgoing, and so different from Olivia that it seemed they might balance each other perfectly. Where Olivia was cautious, Melissa was spontaneous. Where Olivia saved, Melissa lived in the moment. Melissa worked as a bartender at an upscale cocktail lounge, bringing home cash tips and stories about celebrities who'd wandered in after shows at nearby venues. "You need to loosen up," Melissa would tell Olivia, sliding a glass of wine across their second-hand coffee table. "All that worrying is going to give you wrinkles before you're 30. Despite their differences, the arrangement worked. For 6 months, they settled into a comfortable routine. Olivia leaving early for the office, Melissa coming home late smelling of expensive perfume and liquor. They weren't best friends, but they were friendly, occasionally sharing meals or binging. Netflix shows on weekends. Then came April, and everything changed. It started with a simple conversation. Olivia had been saving for months, putting aside a little from each paycheck despite her tight budget. The apartment lease was coming up for renewal, and they needed first and last month's rent plus security deposit, nearly $6,000 total. "I've got most of my half," Olivia said one evening as Melissa flipped through a magazine at the kitchen counter. "But I'm still about $500 short. The landlord needs it by the 15th. Melissa looked up, twirling a strand of blonde hair around her finger. "Don't worry about it. I can cover the whole thing." Olivia blinked in surprise. "The whole thing? But that's $6,000. Yeah." Melissa shrugged. "I've been making killer tips lately. Some tech conference has been in town, and those guys don't know what to do with their money." She grinned. "Plus, I've been seeing this new guy. He's generous." Something about the offer made Olivia uneasy, but she couldn't pinpoint why. Melissa had always been reliable with bills so far. "That's really nice, but I have most of my share. I just need a little more time for the rest." "Seriously, it's fine," Melissa insisted. "You can just Venmo me your portion when you have it. No rush." Against her better judgment, Olivia agreed. She transferred the $2,500 she had saved to Melissa's account that evening. "Thanks for covering the rest," she said. "I'll have the remaining $500 after my next paycheck." Melissa waved her off. Don't stress about it. 3 days later, Olivia came home to find the apartment eerily quiet. Melissa's bedroom door was open, which was unusual. She typically kept it closed, even when she wasn't home. A strange feeling settled in Olivia's stomach as she approached the doorway. The room was empty. Not just of Melissa, but of everything. The bohemian tapestries that had covered the walls, the string lights that created a perpetual golden glow, the overflowing closet of vintage clothes all gone. The mattress remained, stripped bare, along with the basic furniture that had come with the apartment. Confused, Olivia pulled out her phone and called Melissa. The call went straight to voicemail. She texted, "Hey, where are you? Everything okay?" No. Response. Hours passed, and the knot in Olivia's stomach tightened. She checked their shared bathroom. Melissa's extensive collection of makeup and hair products had vanished. She opened the refrigerator. Melissa's special oat milk and kombucha were missing. It was as if her roommate had been systematically erased from the apartment. At 11 p.m., just as Olivia was considering calling the police to report a missing person, her phone buzzed with a text. "Sorry for the ghosting," Melissa had written. "Got an amazing opportunity in LA. Had to move fast. Left the key with the super. Good luck with everything." Disbelief gave way to panic as Olivia processed what this might mean. She scrambled to her laptop and logged into her bank account. The $2,500 she had transferred to Melissa was gone, of course. But Melissa had never paid the landlord. With shaking hands, Olivia called Mr. Patterson, their building's owner. "I'm checking about our lease renewal," she said, struggling to keep her voice steady. "My roommate was supposed to drop off the payment." "Haven't seen her," Patterson replied gruffly. "Deadline's in 2 days. If I don't get the full amount by then, I'm putting the place back on the market. Got a waiting list a mile long." The reality crashed down on Olivia like a physical weight. Melissa had taken her money and disappeared. No lease renewal, no roommate, and now, potentially, no apartment. She had exactly 48 hours to come up with $6,000, money she simply didn't have. That night, Olivia didn't sleep. She called everyone she knew, asking for loans. She applied for credit cards. She even called her parents, something her pride had prevented her from doing since she'd declared her independence after college. "I'm sorry, sweetheart," her mother said, the disappointment in her voice cutting deeper than any criticism could have. "The medical bills from Dad's surgery wiped out our savings. We just don't have it." By morning, Olivia had secured promises for about $1,200, not even close to what she needed. She went to work in the same clothes she'd worn the day before, dark circles under her eyes, fighting back tears of frustration. "You look like hell," her coworker James commented when she slumped into her cubicle. Normally private about her personal life, Olivia surprised herself by spilling the whole story. James listened, his expression darkening as she explained how Melissa had disappeared with her money and left her on the hook for thousands more. "That's theft," he said when she finished. "You should file a police report." "With what proof?" Olivia asked bitterly. "I willingly transferred her the money. She never explicitly said she'd pay the landlord with it, and now she's gone." James frowned, considering. "What about the lease? Isn't her name on it too? She's equally responsible." "It expires in 2 days," Olivia reminded him. "After that, we're both just squatters unless we renew." "So you're out the $2,500 and you need another $3,500 by tomorrow," James summarized. He ran a hand through his hair. "That's rough." The day passed in a blur of spreadsheets and unanswered texts to Melissa. By 5 p.m., Olivia had resigned herself to the inevitable. She would lose her apartment. With her credit score, finding another place would be nearly impossible. She might have to move back to her parents' home in rural Vermont, abandoning the job she'd worked so hard to get. As she packed up her things, her desk phone rang. The CEO's assistant was on the line. Ms. Turner, Mr. Reed would like to see you before you leave today. Heart sinking, Olivia made her way to the top floor. Has her distraction been noticed? Was she about to lose her job too? Maxwell Reed was intimidating even on a good day. In his 60s, with silver hair and piercing blue eyes, he'd built Morgan & Reed from a small financial consultancy into one of Boston's premier firms. He rarely interacted with junior staff directly. "Sit down, Ms. Turner," he said when she entered his office. "James Calloway tells me you're in a difficult situation." Embarrassment flooded Olivia's cheeks. "Sir, I apologize if my personal issues have affected my work. I promise it won't happen again." Reed waved away her concerns. "Your work is impeccable. Always has been. That's not why you're here." He leaned forward, fingers steepled. "James also tells me you have exceptional potential. Say you've been taking online courses in financial analysis on your own time." Confused by the change in topic, Olivia nodded cautiously. "We have a policy here," Reed continued. "We invest in talent when we see it. The company has a housing assistance program for promising employees. Interest-free loan, repaid through modest paycheck deductions over time." He slid a folder across the desk. "The paperwork is already drawn up. It'll cover your immediate housing needs, plus a little extra for moving expenses if you decide to find a new place." A lot of love and effort went into bringing this story to life. If you're enjoying it, we'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to our channel. Now back to where we left off. Olivia stared at the folder, unable to believe what she was hearing. "Sir, I don't know what to say." "Say you'll be at the Henderson pitch meeting next week," Reed replied. "James thinks you're ready for client-facing work. I'm inclined to agree." That night, as Olivia sat alone in the apartment that was now hers alone, she allowed herself to cry for the first time, not from despair, but from relief and lingering anger. She had survived Melissa's betrayal, but the experience had changed her. Trust, she realized, was a luxury she could no longer afford. The next day, she filed a police report, knowing it would likely lead nowhere. She changed her phone number and email address, blocking Melissa on every social platform. She threw herself into work with renewed dedication, determined to repay Reed's faith in her and prove to herself that one setback wouldn't define her life. Over the months that followed, Olivia rose quickly at Morgan & Reed. The Henderson pitch had been successful, leading to more client meetings, bigger accounts, and eventually a promotion to senior analyst. She moved to a smaller apartment in a better neighborhood, made new friends, dated occasionally, though never allowing anyone to get too close. Years passed. Olivia continued her upward trajectory, completing her MBA part-time and earning a reputation as the firm's most detail-oriented financial strategist. The memory of Melissa faded gradually, becoming just another cautionary tale, a reminder to verify before trusting. Until today. 12 years after Melissa Davis had vanished with her money and nearly destroyed her life, Olivia sat in her corner, office reviewing applications for the Director of Client Relations position. The role reported directly to her and required someone with exceptional people skills, financial acumen, and unquestionable integrity. The HR department had narrowed the field to 5 candidates. Olivia flipped through their resumes methodically, making notes on each. The 4th application made her hand freeze mid-page turn. Melissa Davis. The name might have been a coincidence, but the photo attached to the application confirmed what Olivia already knew in her gut. Older now, with shorter hair and more sophisticated makeup, but unmistakably the same woman who had disappeared 12 years ago with $2,500 of Olivia's money. According to her resume, Melissa had spent the last decade building an impressive career in client relations at several West Coast financial firms. She had an MBA from UCLA, glowing recommendations, and a list of accomplishments that would normally place her at the top of any candidate pool. Olivia's first instinct was to throw the application directly into the shredder. Her second was to Call Melissa in for an interview just to see the look on her face when she realized whose company she was applying to. Her third, and most surprising, was curiosity. Did Melissa remember her? Has she changed? Did she ever think about the young woman she'd left in such a desperate situation? For several minutes, Olivia sat perfectly still, the application in her hands, as memories and emotions battled for dominance. Finally, she pressed the intercom button. "Janet, please schedule interviews with all 5 candidates for the client relations position," she said, her voice betraying none of the turmoil she felt. "Spread them throughout next week." "Yes, Ms. Turner," her assistant replied. "Any specific order?" Olivia looked down at Melissa's smiling photo. "Put Ms. Davis last," she said. "I'd like to end the week with her." As she placed the application back in the folder, Olivia felt something she hadn't experienced in years: the adrenaline rush of walking into unknown territory. 1 week from today, she would come face to face with the woman who had nearly ruined her life. The woman who had no idea that the desperate roommate she'd abandoned had become someone with the power to determine her future. What would happen in that interview room? Olivia wasn't sure. But for the first time in a long time, she felt fully alive, poised on the edge of a moment that could change everything, again. The week before Melissa's interview crawled by with excruciating slowness. Olivia found herself unable to focus on quarterly projections or client meetings, her mind constantly wandering back to the glossy resume sitting in her desk drawer. Each night, she returned to her penthouse apartment and poured herself a glass of wine, settling on her balcony to contemplate the strange twist of fate that had brought her former roommate back into her orbit. On Wednesday, after a particularly distracted budget meeting, Olivia made a decision. Knowledge was power, and she needed more of it. Opening her laptop, she began what she could only describe as reconnaissance. Melissa's online presence was curated and professional. LinkedIn, profile filled with accomplishments, Instagram featuring business conferences and charity galas rather than bar scenes. According to her CV, she had spent 2 years at a boutique firm in Los Angeles before moving to a larger company in San Francisco, where she had steadily climbed the ranks. 3 months ago, she had relocated to Boston, the very city she had fled 12 years earlier. Olivia dug deeper. She ran a background check, something Morgan & Reed routinely did for potential hires, but she wanted to see the results herself. No criminal record, good credit score, current address in a luxury apartment building downtown. Everything appeared in order, which only intensified Olivia's suspicion. People didn't change that fundamentally, did they? The impulsive, irresponsible bartender who had stolen her roommate's money and disappeared couldn't have transformed into this polished financial professional without leaving some trace of her former self. Thursday morning, Olivia called in a favor from Scott Winters, old college friend who had become a private investigator. "I need information on someone," she said when he answered. Discreetly. Scott didn't ask questions, one of the qualities she most appreciated about him. "Send me what you have. I'll see what I can find." By Thursday afternoon, Scott had delivered a preliminary report. Melissa Davis had indeed begun working at the Wilshire Group in Los Angeles in 2013, shortly after leaving Boston. Her employment record showed steady progression, with positive reviews and no red flags. She had completed her MBA at UCLA's part-time program while working full-time. Her credit report showed responsible financial management for the past decade. "Look deeper," Olivia instructed. "Something doesn't add up." Friday morning, Scott called back. "Found something interesting," he said without preamble. Before she was Melissa Davis of the Wilshire Group, she was Melissa Peterson of Chicago. Name changed in 2013, right after moving to California. A chill ran down Olivia's spine. Criminal record under the old name? "Nothing that serious," Scott replied. But I found 3 former roommates who filed small claims court cases against her in Chicago between 2009 and 2012. All with similar complaints: money missing, rent unpaid, deposits never returned. She never showed for the court dates, so judgments were entered against her. They were never collected. And then she changed her name and moved across the country. Olivia finished, pieces clicking into place. Looks that way. Want me to keep digging? Olivia considered this new information. Yes. And Scott? Find out if she's applied to other financial firms in Boston recently. By Friday evening, Olivia had what amounted to a dossier on Melissa Davis, formerly Peterson. The pattern was clear and disturbing. Chicago before Boston, Boston before Los Angeles. In each city, a series of roommates or landlords left with missing money. Then a move, a fresh start, eventually a name change to erase the paper trail. But something had shifted in California. Whether it was the distance from her past or some internal change, Melissa appeared to have straightened out. No complaints from roommates or landlords, steady employment, legitimate achievements. For the past decade, she seemed to have been living as the accomplished professional she claimed to be on her resume. Scott's final report confirmed she had applied to 3 other financial firms in Boston besides Morgan & Reed. 2 had already conducted interviews. 1 had made her an offer, which she had neither accepted nor declined yet. The most striking discovery, however, came from Melissa's social media. Deep in her Instagram archive, nearly 3 years back, was a post that made Olivia's blood run cold. A sunset photo of the Boston skyline with the caption, "Some cities call you home, no matter how far you run. One day, I'll make things right." Second chances. Redemption. Olivia stared at the post for a long time, unsure what to make of it. Was it possible Melissa had returned to Boston specifically to find her? To make amends? Or was this another manipulation, another facade designed to conceal her true nature? Monday morning arrived with gray skies and a persistent drizzle that matched Olivia's mood. She had interviewed the first 4 candidates for the director position over the previous week. All qualified, none exceptional. Today at 2 p.m., she would face Melissa Davis across her desk and... What? Confront her? Pretend not to recognize her? Listen to whatever explanation she might offer? Olivia still hadn't decided. At 1:45, Janet buzzed her intercom. "Ms. Davis is here for her interview. Shall I send her in?" Olivia took a deep breath, smoothing her charcoal pencil skirt and adjusting her emerald blouse, an outfit carefully chosen to project authority and confidence. "Give me 5 minutes, then show her. In." Those 5 minutes stretched like an eternity as Olivia arranged and rearranged the papers on her desk. When the door finally opened, she forced herself to look up slowly, as if this were any ordinary interview. Melissa Davis stood in the doorway, wearing a navy blue suit that complemented her slender frame. Her blonde hair, once long and often tousled, was now cut in a sleek bob that framed her face elegantly. She looked polished, professional, and completely at ease, until her eyes met Olivia's. The recognition was immediate. Melissa froze mid-step, color draining from her face. Her confident smile faltered, then disappeared entirely. For several seconds, neither woman spoke. "Ms. Davis," Olivia finally said, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. "Please have a seat." Melissa moved forward mechanically, her composure visibly shaken. "Olivia," she said softly, "I had no idea. When HR called to schedule the interview, they just said the CFO would be conducting it." She sank into the chair, hands clasped tightly in her lap. "I should go." "That would be unprofessional," Olivia replied evenly. "You're here for an interview, and I'm here to conduct it." She opened the folder containing Melissa's resume, though she had memorized every detail days ago. Impressive credentials: MBA from UCLA, 8 years at Preston Financial in San Francisco, rising from client associate to senior relationship manager. Melissa swallowed hard. Olivia, Ms. Turner, please, Olivia corrected her. Or Chief Financial Officer Turner, if you prefer. We're not roommates anymore, Ms. Davis. Or should I say, Ms. Peterson? The color that had drained from Melissa's face rushed back in a deep flush. You know. I know quite a lot, Olivia confirmed. 3 claims filed against you in Chicago. A hasty departure from Boston, leaving me with $6,000 of rent due and only 2 days to come up with it. A name change in California. And now, mysteriously, a return to the very city you abandoned 12 years ago. She leaned forward. What I don't know is why. Melissa's composed facade crumbled entirely. I didn't expect this, she whispered. But maybe I should have. Of course you'd end up successful. You were always the smart one, the responsible one. Flattery won't help you here, Olivia said coldly. I'm more interested in understanding why you've applied to a company where I hold a C-level position. Did you know I worked here? No. Melissa's response was immediate and emphatic. God, no. I had no idea. Morgan & Reed has an excellent reputation. When I decided to move back to Boston, it was on my short list of dream employers. She paused, taking a shaky breath. But you're right that I came back to find you. I've been searching for months, checking social media, alumni directories, asking mutual acquaintances from our old building. No one seemed to know where you'd ended up. Olivia raised an eyebrow skeptically. And why would you be looking for me after all this time? Melissa reached for her purse, a designer bag that probably cost more than the entire rent payment she'd stolen years ago. She withdrew an envelope, creased and worn as if it had been carried for a long time. I've been carrying this for 3 years, she said, sliding it across the desk, since I made the decision to come back and make things right. Olivia didn't touch the envelope. Make things right? You stole my money and left me facing eviction. Do you have any idea what that did to me? No, Melissa admitted. But I want to. I want to know everything that happened after I left, and I want to try to make amends. She pushed the envelope closer. Please. It won't fix what I did, but it's a start. Reluctantly, Olivia picked up the envelope and opened it. Inside was a cashier's check for $25,000, 10 times the amount Melissa had taken. I calculated the original amount plus 12 years of interest, Melissa explained, and added compensation for the pain and hardship I caused. She looked down, at her hands. I know it's not enough. Nothing could be. But I'm not the same person I was back then. Olivia stared at the check, emotions warring within her. The logical part of her brain noted that $25,000 was insignificant to her now. She made more than that each month. But the symbolic weight of it, the acknowledgement of the debt and the harm done, struck deeper than she had expected. Why now? She asked finally. It's been 12 years. Melissa seemed to choose her words carefully. I hit rock bottom after California. The name change, the move, it was supposed to be a fresh start. And in some ways, it was. I got lucky with my first job at Wilshire. My boss there took a chance on me, mentored me, and believed I could be more than a bartender with a sketchy past. She looked up, meeting Olivia's eyes directly. I worked hard, harder than I ever had before. Started taking night classes, learning the business properly. And slowly, I built something I was proud of. A career, a reputation. But there was always this shadow hanging over me. All the people I'd hurt, all the bridges I'd burned. 3 years ago, my mentor died suddenly, heart attack at 52. At his funeral, I realized he'd never really known me. The real me, with all my mistakes and failings. He'd known the person I was pretending to be, and I decided I didn't want to pretend anymore. Melissa's voice grew stronger as she continued. I started making amends, found my former roommates in Chicago, paid them back with interest, made anonymous donations to causes they cared about. You were the last one, and the hardest to find. Olivia tapped the check thoughtfully against her desk. A convenient story, perfectly crafted for sympathy. But how do I know it's true? How do I know this isn't just another manipulation? Instead of protesting, Melissa nodded. You don't, and you have no reason to trust me. I wouldn't, in your position. She reached into her purse again and pulled out a small notebook. These are the names and contact information for the people I've made amends to. Call them. Ask them whatever you want. They'll confirm everything I've told you. She placed the notebook beside the check. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Olivia. I'm not even asking for this job anymore. I know that's impossible now. I just wanted to finally take responsibility for what I did to you. For a long moment, the only sound in the office was the gentle patter of rain against the windows. Olivia studied the woman across from her, searching for signs of the reckless, selfish roommate she had once known. But the Melissa before her now seemed genuinely changed, humbled, sincere, willing to face the consequences of her past actions. Why did you do it? Olivia asked finally. Back then, I mean. Why take my money when you were planning to leave anyway? Melissa's expression clouded with shame. I was in trouble. Deep trouble. I'd gotten involved with a guy who turned out to be dealing drugs out of the bar where I worked. When the police started investigating, he needed cash to disappear, and he wasn't taking no for an answer. She touched a spot on her collarbone reflexively. He made it clear what would happen if I didn't help him. So you stole from me instead, Olivia concluded. I was scared and desperate, Melissa acknowledged, and I convinced myself you'd be okay, that you'd figure something out because you were smart and capable, that you had a family who could help. She looked down. It was selfish rationalization, and I've regretted it every day since. Outside, the rain intensified, streaking down the windows in rivulets that distorted the city beyond. Olivia found herself at a crossroads she'd never anticipated. The woman who had nearly destroyed her career before it began was now asking, if not for forgiveness, then for acknowledgement of her attempt to make amends. Part of Olivia, the part still wounded by that long-ago betrayal, wanted to tear up the check, call security, and have Melissa escorted from the building. But another part, the woman who had overcome that betrayal and built something meaningful from its ashes, recognized the courage it took to face one's worst mistakes. The position has already been filled, Olivia said at last, a decision forming as she spoke. We concluded interviews last week. Melissa nodded, accepting this without protest. I understand. Thank you for seeing me anyway, when you could have simply thrown my application away. She stood, gathering her purse. I'll leave you in peace. Now! I didn't say our business was concluded, Olivia replied, rising as well. I have a proposition for you, Ms. Davis. Not employment at Morgan & Reed. That would be inappropriate given our history. But I sit on the board of a nonprofit that helps young women in financial crisis. Women who might otherwise make desperate choices when backed into corners. She circled her desk, leaning against its edge. We need someone to run our mentorship program. Someone who understands both sides of the equation. Someone who's been at rock bottom and found their way back. Melissa looked stunned. You'd trust me with that? After everything? Trust is earned, Olivia stated firmly. And you'd start with none. You'd have to rebuild it, decision by decision, day by day. The salary is half what we're offering for the director position here, and twice the work. But it's meaningful work. She picked up Melissa's check and held it out. This is a start. But if you're serious about making amends, about being someone different than who you were, this would be a much more significant step. Melissa stared at her, eyes bright with unshed tears. Why would you give me this chance? Olivia thought of Maxwell Reed, the CEO who had seen potential in her at her lowest moment. How his unexpected faith had changed the trajectory of her life. Because 12 years ago, someone took a chance on me when I was at my lowest, she said simply. And I've never forgotten what that meant. Melissa took the check back, her hand trembling slightly. I don't deserve this opportunity. No, Olivia agreed. You don't. Not yet. But you might earn it. She returned to her chair, professional demeanor sliding back into place. Take the weekend to think about it. If you're interested, be at this address Monday morning at 9 a.m. She scribbled the foundation's location on a business card and held it out. Dress casually. The women we work with are intimidated enough, without designer suits. As Melissa took the card, their fingers brushed briefly. The contact was fleeting, but charged with the weight of their shared history and this unexpected new chapter. Thank you, Melissa said softly. Whether I've earned it or not. After she left, Olivia remained at her desk for a long time, watching the rain wash the city clean outside her window. The past could not be undone. The pain Melissa had caused could not be erased. But perhaps, Olivia thought, there was value in allowing people the space to become something more than their worst mistakes. She picked up her phone and dialed Janet's extension. Cancel my dinner meeting tonight. There's something more important I need to attend to. That evening, for the first time in 12 years, Olivia Turner opened her laptop and began searching for information about the others who had lived in her old apartment building. She had focused so long on moving forward that she had never looked back to see who else might have been caught in Melissa's wake, who else might need closure, or justice, or simply the truth. The past was not finished with either of them yet. The T. Foundation for Financial Empowerment occupied a renovated brownstone in Roxbury, its brick facade distinguished from neighboring buildings by bright blue doors and window boxes overflowing with spring flowers. Inside, the atmosphere was purposefully welcoming. Comfortable furniture, warm lighting, and walls covered with photographs of women at graduation ceremonies, new job celebrations, and first home purchases. When Olivia arrived Monday morning, she was surprised to find Melissa already there, sitting on a bench in the foyer, dressed in simple black slacks and a chambray button-down. No designer labels, no flashy jewelry. Her hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, her face bare of makeup. You're early, Olivia observed, checking her watch. It was 8:40 a.m. Melissa stood, smoothing her pants nervously. I wanted to make sure I found the place, and I wanted to be ready. Olivia nodded, appreciating the gesture while maintaining her professional distance. Follow me. I'll introduce you to Tamara Washington, our executive director. As they walked through the building, Olivia explained the foundation's work: financial literacy workshops, one-on-one counseling, emergency assistance for women facing eviction or utility shutoffs, and mentorship programs connecting young women with established professionals in various fields. Tamara's office reflected her personality, organized but creative, with children's artwork pinned alongside financial charts and community achievement awards. A formidable woman in her 50s with silver-streaked braids and penetrating dark eyes, she rose to greet them. So, this is your candidate, she said, giving Melissa an appraising look. Olivia told me you have an unusual qualification for this position. Melissa glanced at Olivia, uncertain how much had been shared. I told Tamara everything, Olivia clarified. This foundation operates on trust and transparency. If you're going to work here, there can't be secrets about your past. Instead of defensiveness, Melissa's expression showed relief. That makes sense, she said, turning to Tamara. I'm an example of what happens when financial desperation leads to poor choices, and I've spent years learning how to build a different kind of life. Tamara gestured for them to sit. Olivia says you stole her rent money and disappeared 12 years ago, leaving her nearly homeless. Now you want to help women avoid similar situations? Yes, Melissa answered simply. Because I understand both sides now. I know what it feels like to be so scared about money that you'd betray someone who trusted you, and I've learned, the hard way, that those choices follow you forever." For the next hour, Tamara questioned Melissa extensively about her financial knowledge, her experience mentoring others at Preston Financial, and most carefully about her journey from thief to professional. Olivia observed silently, noting how Melissa answered honestly, without self-justification or evasion. "You understand this position pays $60,000 annually," Tamara said finally. "That's significantly less than you'd make in the corporate world." "Money isn't my priority anymore," Melissa replied. "Making a meaningful difference is." Tamara exchanged a look with Olivia. "I'd like you to spend the day shadowing our current mentorship coordinator, Ellis. She's leaving us next month for graduate school. If both of you feel it's a good fit after today, we can discuss next steps." As Melissa followed Ellis out, Tamara turned to Olivia. "Are you sure about this? It's a noble gesture, but your history with this woman is complicated." "I'm not sure of anything," Olivia admitted, "but she deserves the chance to prove herself one way or another." The Foundation's modest conference room became Olivia's office for the day. She had brought work from Morgan & Reed, using the opportunity to review quarterly projections while periodically observing Melissa through the glass walls as she shadowed Ellis from meeting to meeting. At lunchtime, Ellis appeared at Olivia's door. "Your friend is impressive," she said, leaning against the door frame. "She's already suggested 3 improvements to our financial literacy curriculum that I wish I'd thought of years ago." Olivia kept her expression neutral. "She's not my friend, but I'm glad she's being helpful." Ellis gave her a knowing look. "Nobody brings someone here unless they believe in their potential. Whatever your history, you must see something in her worth believing in." After Ellis left, Olivia found herself reflecting on that observation. Did she believe in Melissa's potential for redemption? Or was this elaborate setup merely a way to observe her former roommate, to determine once and for all if her remorse was genuine? The afternoon brought a new dimension to Olivia's assessment. From her vantage point, she watched Melissa sitting with a young single mother, head bent close as they reviewed a budget spreadsheet together. The woman was visibly distressed, gesturing emphatically as she explained something. Instead of offering platitudes, Melissa listened intently, occasionally making notes or asking questions. After nearly an hour, the 2 women stood. To Olivia's surprise, they embraced. The young mother's expression transformed from desperation to cautious hope. As Melissa walked her to the door, Olivia could see they had formed a connection that transcended a simple financial consultation. When the building had emptied for the day, Olivia found Melissa in the kitchen, washing dishes that others had left in the sink. "You don't have to do that," Olivia pointed out. "We have cleaning staff." "I know," Melissa replied, not pausing in her task. "But everyone here works so hard. It feels right to contribute however I can." She rinsed the last mug and placed it in the drying rack. "That woman today, Andrea, she reminded me of myself at 22, scared, making decisions from a place of panic rather than planning." "What was her situation?" Olivia asked, genuine curiosity overcoming her reserved demeanor. "She's behind on rent, considering payday loans to cover it. Her son needs emergency dental surgery next week, and her insurance won't cover the full cost." Melissa dried her hands on a dish towel. She was ready to sign a loan agreement with 400% annual interest. It would have trapped her in a cycle of debt for years. "What did you advise?" "I helped her apply for emergency assistance through the Foundation for the Immediate Rent Crisis. Then we worked out a payment plan she can propose to the dental office." Melissa's expression softened. "But mostly I just listened. Sometimes people in financial distress just need someone to hear them without judgment." The irony of that statement hung between them. Melissa, who had once caused such financial distress for Olivia, now positioning herself as a compassionate advisor. Yet Olivia couldn't deny the genuine connection she had witnessed between Melissa and Andrea. Tamara wants to offer you the position, Olivia said abruptly. She called me while you were in your last meeting. Melissa's eyes widened. Already? But it's only been one day. Ellis gave you a glowing review, and Tamara has good instincts about people. Olivia paused. The job is yours if you want it. 3-month probationary period to start. You'd begin when Ellis leaves in 2 weeks. I want it, Melissa said without hesitation. More than I've wanted anything in a long time, Olivia nodded. One condition. You work with me to find and repay everyone else you've harmed, not just your former roommates, but anyone who suffered from your actions. Melissa's posture stiffened slightly. There are some people I haven't been able to locate, and others who, it's complicated. That's not a yes, Olivia observed. It's not a no either. Melissa sighed. There's more to my past than you know, Olivia. Things I'm not proud of. Things I've been trying to make right in my own way. Then tell me, Olivia challenged. No more secrets, remember? If we're going to work together, even indirectly, I need to know who I'm dealing with. The kitchen's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across Melissa's face as she considered the ultimatum. Finally, she nodded toward the conference room. We should sit down. This might take a while. Inside the conference room, with the door firmly closed, Melissa began her story. Her voice was steady but quiet, as if she'd rehearsed this confession many times in her mind. I told you about the boyfriend who was dealing drugs, but that wasn't the whole truth. By the time I met you, I was already in deep. I'd been moving money for him, letting him use my bank accounts to launder cash. I didn't ask questions because the extra money helped me maintain the lifestyle I wanted. She looked down at her hands. When the police investigation started, I panicked. He wanted me to take the fall, said they'd go easier on me as a first-time offender. When I refused, he threatened me, said he'd make sure I never testified against him. Olivia listened silently, pieces falling into place. The money I took from you wasn't just to help him disappear. It was for me to disappear too. I left that night because I knew he was coming for me. I changed apartments every few months after that, using different names, working under the table. That's why I moved around so much, why I eventually changed my name legally. I was hiding. From the boyfriend or the police? Olivia asked. Both at first. Later, just from him. He was arrested eventually, but released on a technicality. He found me in Chicago, that's why I fled to Boston. Then he found me here, which is why I took your money and ran to California. Understanding dawned on Olivia. So all those roommates you stole from, those weren't separate incidents of theft. They were part of a pattern of running. Melissa nodded. It doesn't excuse what I did. But yes, each time I was terrified and desperate. California was different because he was finally convicted of an unrelated charge. 20 years. After that, I could stop running. Why come back to Boston now? Aren't you worried he might be released early? He died in prison 3 years ago. Heart attack. Melissa's expression showed complex emotions, relief tinged with something like grief. That's when I started making amends. It felt like I could finally stop being defined by fear. Olivia processed this revelation, reassessing everything she thought she knew about Melissa's motivations. The others you stole from, your Chicago roommates, have you repaid them? Yes. With interest, like I tried to do with you. Melissa paused. But there's one person I haven't found yet. My last roommate in Chicago, before I came to Boston the first time. She was a nursing student, working nights to pay for school. She had her tuition money saved, and I took most of it when I fled. Her name was Rachel Sandoval. I've tried everything to find her, but it's like she vanished. The name struck Olivia like a physical blow. Rachel Sandoval? She repeated slowly. Melissa looked up sharply. You know her? I know of her, Olivia said carefully. She's a nurse practitioner at Massachusetts General now. She volunteers at the free clinic the foundation partners with. She's here? In Boston? Melissa looked stunned. How do you know her? Olivia weighed her words. The foundation helps women in financial crises. That includes students who suddenly can't pay their tuition. She held Melissa's gaze steadily. Rachel had to drop out of nursing school when her savings disappeared. She worked as a CNA for 5 years, saving again. The foundation helped her with a scholarship to finish her degree. The color drained from Melissa's face as the full circle of consequences became clear. I had no idea. I've been looking for her under her maiden name. She must have married. She did. Then divorced. She uses her professional name now. Melissa closed her eyes briefly. I need to make this right with her, too. Yes, you do, Olivia agreed. But there's something else you should know. Rachel serves on our scholarship committee. She'll be working closely with the mentorship program. The implications hung in the air between them. Taking the job would mean facing yet another person Melissa had wronged. Someone who, unlike Olivia, had no idea her former roommate was about to re-enter her life. Does she know about me? That I might be working here? Melissa asked. No. The committee meets quarterly. The next meeting is in 3 weeks. Olivia leaned forward. So now you have a choice to make. Take the job, knowing you'll have to face Rachel and whatever consequences come with that reunion. Or walk away, continue your corporate career, and leave the past buried. That's not really a choice, Melissa said quietly. If I'm serious about making amends, I can't keep avoiding the hardest conversations. Olivia studied her former roommate with new eyes. The frightened, selfish young woman who had stolen from her was nowhere to be seen in this composed professional willing to face her worst mistakes. The job starts the Monday after next, Olivia said finally. 9 a.m. Tamara will handle the paperwork. She stood to leave, then paused. One more thing. If you're going to work with vulnerable women, you need to be prepared for Rachel's reaction. She may not be as accommodating as I've been. Melissa nodded soberly. I understand. And Olivia? Thank you for this chance. I know I haven't earned your trust yet, but I will. As Olivia drove home that evening, her thoughts were turbulent. She had come to the foundation today expecting to test Melissa, perhaps even to watch her fail. Instead, she found herself reluctantly impressed by the woman's candor and genuine skill with clients. The revelation about the abusive boyfriend complicated her understanding of Melissa's past actions. It didn't erase the harm done, to Olivia, to Rachel, to others, but it contextualized it in ways that made simple judgment more difficult. At home, Olivia poured herself a glass of wine and stepped onto her balcony. The city lights spread before her, thousands of windows representing countless lives, each with their own complicated stories. Somewhere out there was Rachel Sandoval, unaware that her past was about to collide with her present, just as Olivia's had. Her phone chimed with a text from Tamara. Contract ready for Melissa. Sure about this? Olivia typed back. Yes, but we need to talk about Rachel. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of activity. Olivia threw herself into work at Morgan and Reed, delegating the foundation's affairs to Tamara. She kept her distance as Melissa began her new position, receiving updates only through Tamara's brief reports. She's connecting well with clients. Ellis is impressed with her financial knowledge. She's redesigning the mentorship curriculum. The scholarship committee meeting approached with the inevitability of an oncoming train. Olivia had arranged to tell Rachel about Melissa's hiring the day before, wanting to give her time to process the information privately before they would all be in the same room together. They met at a quiet cafe near the hospital where Rachel worked. At 36, Rachel Sandoval carried herself with the confident efficiency of someone who had overcome significant obstacles. Her dark hair was streaked with premature silver, her eyes sharp and assessing behind stylish glasses. This sounds serious, Rachel said after they'd exchanged pleasantries. Is there a problem with the scholarship program? Olivia took a steady breath. No, the program is fine. This is about a recent hire at the foundation. Someone from your past. Rachel's expression remained open, curious. My past? Who? Melissa Peterson, though she goes by Melissa Davis now. The change was instantaneous. Rachel's body went rigid, her knuckles white around her coffee cup. What did you just say? Quietly, Olivia explained Melissa's reappearance, her apparent transformation, and her position at the foundation. She watched as Rachel processed each piece of information, her expression shifting from shock to anger to something more complicated. She disappeared with $8,000 of my money, Rachel said finally. Do you have any idea what that did to me? I was 1 semester away from finishing my degree. I had to drop out, move home to my parents' house, and start over completely. I know, Olivia said gently. She did something similar to me years later. That's how we connected. Rachel shook her head in disbelief. And now she works for your foundation? The same foundation that helped me recover from what she did? That's perverse. It's complicated, Olivia acknowledged. She's been making amends to people she's harmed. She's been looking for you, apparently, but couldn't find you after your name change. Making amends, Rachel repeated flatly. And you believe her? After what she did to you? Olivia considered the question carefully. I believe she's trying to change. Whether she's succeeded, that's still being determined. Rachel set down her cup with deliberate control. I won't work with her. I can't. I understand. And if you want to leave the committee, no one would blame you. But before you decide, Olivia hesitated. There's more to her story than either of us knew. By the time Olivia finished sharing what she had learned about Melissa's abusive relationship and years of hiding, Rachel's anger had cooled to a simmer rather than a boil. She sat in silence for several minutes, processing. It explains some things, she said finally. She was always looking over her shoulder, jumping at loud noises. I assumed it was anxiety. She sighed heavily. But understanding doesn't erase what happened. No, Olivia agreed. It doesn't. I need time to think about this, Rachel said, standing. The committee meeting is tomorrow? Yes. But you don't have to come if you're not ready. Rachel squared her shoulders, the gesture of someone who had faced many difficult situations in her life. I'll be there. I want to see her for myself. I want to look her in the eye and judge whether anything she says is genuine. As they parted ways, Olivia felt the weight of responsibility for whatever would happen next. She had set these events in motion, bringing together 2 women Melissa had harmed, creating the conditions for either healing or further pain. Tomorrow would reveal which path their shared history would take. The Foundation's conference room felt unnaturally quiet the next morning. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, illuminating the polished oak table where 5 women sat reviewing scholarship applications. At the head of the table, Tamara facilitated the meeting with practiced efficiency, but tension hung in the air. Like an electrical charge before a storm, Olivia sat to Tamara's right, watching the subtle dynamics unfold. Melissa, positioned halfway down the table, maintained a professional demeanor despite the beads of sweat visible at her temples. Her focus remained steadfastly on the scholarship materials, her contributions to the discussion thoughtful but brief. Rachel Sandoval had arrived last, taking the seat farthest from Melissa. Unlike Olivia, who had recognized her former roommate immediately, Rachel had needed a moment. Her sharp intake of breath when she first laid eyes on Melissa had been audible, followed by a rigid composure that hadn't softened throughout the meeting. Next, we have Amanda Pearson, Tamara announced, distributing a new set of documents. 24, single mother of twins, currently working as a medical receptionist while taking pre-nursing courses at community college. Rachel spoke for the first time in nearly an hour. Her academic records are strong despite her full schedule. That shows commitment. Her financial need is clear, another committee member added. But I'm concerned about her childcare situation. If she receives a full scholarship and increases her course load, who will watch her children? Melissa cleared her throat softly. I've been working with Amanda through the mentorship program. She has a solid support system. Her mother lives with her and handles childcare while Amanda works and studies. The scholarship would allow her to reduce her work hours and complete her degree faster. Rachel's eyes narrowed slightly. You seem well informed about her situation. I've met with her weekly for the past month, Melissa replied evenly. Her circumstances remind me of many women I've known who just need one obstacle removed to achieve their goals. The subtle reference to their shared past wasn't lost on Rachel, whose knuckles whitened around her pen. And you consider yourself qualified to evaluate which obstacles matter most? Tamara shot a questioning glance at Olivia, sensing the undercurrent. Olivia gave a barely perceptible nod, acknowledging the tension but indicating they should continue. Amanda's application is compelling, Olivia interjected smoothly. Let's vote on her scholarship status and move to the next candidate. The committee proceeded through 3 more applications before Tamara called for a 15-minute break. As the other members filed out, Rachel remained seated, her posture rigid. Melissa also stayed, organizing her notes with methodical precision. Olivia and Tamara exchanged glances before Tamara discreetly exited, leaving the 3 women alone. Silence stretched between them until Rachel finally spoke, her voice controlled but edged with steel. 12 years. That's how long it took me to get where I was supposed to be back in Chicago. 12 years of double shifts, student loans, and starting over because you took everything I had saved. Melissa met her gaze directly. I know. And there's nothing I can say that will give you back those years. Then why are you here? Rachel demanded. Playing the reformed sinner, helping women like the ones you once victimized? Because I can't undo what I did, but I can try to prevent others from experiencing what I put you through. Melissa's composure cracked slightly. And because I've been looking for you for 3 years, wanting to apologize and make whatever amends you'll allow. Rachel let out a bitter laugh. Amends? You think money can fix what happened? Do you have any idea what it's like to call your parents and tell them your dream is over, that you've failed? To move back to your childhood? Bedroom at 24 because you have nowhere else to go? Olivia observed silently from her position at the table. This confrontation had been inevitable from the moment she recognized Melissa's name on that job application weeks ago. I can't imagine how difficult that was, Melissa acknowledged quietly. But I know something about losing everything and having to rebuild. It doesn't excuse what I did to you, but maybe it helps explain it. She reached into her bag and withdrew an envelope similar to the one she had offered Olivia. This won't replace the time you lost, but it represents the money I took plus interest and compensation for the delay in your career. Rachel didn't. Touch the envelope. Olivia told me about your boyfriend, the drugs, the running. Is that supposed to make me feel sorry for you? No, it's just the truth. I was terrified and selfish, and I made choices that hurt innocent people because I couldn't see beyond my own survival. Melissa pushed the envelope across the table. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know that your sacrifice wasn't meaningless. It helped me escape a man who might have killed me, and eventually led me to become someone who helps others instead of harming them. Rachel stared at the envelope for a long moment before finally picking it up. Without opening it, she slipped it into her own bag. I don't know what to do with this, with any of this. You don't have to decide right now, Olivia said, speaking for the first time. This is a lot to process. Rachel turned to her, expression sharpening. How are you so calm about all this? She did the same thing to you. Different circumstances. Similar impact, Olivia replied. And I've had longer to sit with it, to see who she's becoming rather than just who she was. Before Rachel could respond, the door opened as the other committee members returned from their break. The conversation suspended. 3 women adjusted their postures and expressions, reverting to their professional personas as the meeting resumed. For the remaining hour, Rachel said little, her attention seemingly divided between the scholarship applications and covert observations of Melissa. When the meeting adjourned, she gathered her materials quickly, clearly intent on a swift departure. Melissa approached her before she could leave. "Rachel, I know this is overwhelming, but I'd like the chance to talk more, whenever you're ready." Rachel paused, her expression unreadable. "I have hospital rounds this afternoon, but I'm free tomorrow evening. Coffee at Blackbird Cafe at 7. She glanced at Olivia. "Both of you." After Rachel left, Melissa exhaled shakily. I don't know how that went." "Better than it could have," Olivia observed. "She's agreed to meet again. That's something." Melissa nodded, collecting her thoughts. "Will you come tomorrow? I think she trusts you more than me, understandably." Olivia considered the request. Her instinct was to maintain professional distance, to let Melissa and Rachel work through their history without her involvement. But she was already entangled in this complicated reconciliation, and had been from the moment she'd decided to interview Melissa rather than discard her application. "I'll be there," she said finally. "But this is primarily between you two. I'm just the bridge." Back at Morgan & Reed that afternoon, Olivia found it impossible to focus on quarterly projections and client presentations. Her mind kept returning to the raw emotion in Rachel's voice, the tentative hope in Melissa's. Two lives, derailed by one woman's desperate choices, now converging again years later. Where would tomorrow's meeting lead? Her executive assistant interrupted these thoughts, appearing at her office door with obvious hesitation. "Ms. Turner, there's a Mr. Cooper here to see you. He doesn't have an appointment, but he's quite persistent." "Cooper?" Olivia frowned, scanning her mental Rolodex. "I don't recall any clients or contacts by that name." "He says it's personal. Something about a foundation matter." A vague uneasiness settled over Olivia. "Send him in." The man who entered her office radiated an aggressive confidence that immediately put Olivia on alert. Mid-40s, expensively dressed, with the hard eyes of someone accustomed to getting his way. He didn't wait for an invitation before taking a seat across from her desk. "Daniel Cooper," he introduced himself with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I believe you recently hired my client, Melissa Davis." Understanding dawned instantly. "You're her lawyer?" "Among other things," Cooper replied vaguely. "I'm here because Ms. Davis's position at your foundation creates an interesting legal situation." Olivia maintained her professional composure despite her growing concern. "I'm not sure I follow. The foundation is separate from Morgan & Reed. Any employment matters would be handled through Tamara Washington." Cooper's smile widened fractionally. "Let's not play games, Ms. Turner. You personally arranged for Melissa's employment after she applied to work here at Morgan & Reed. An unusual arrangement considering your history." The realization that this man knew about her past with Melissa sent a chill down Olivia's spine. "What exactly do you want, Mr. Cooper?" "Clarity," he said simply. "Melissa has been working very hard to rebuild her life, making amends, as they say, but certain aspects of her past could be problematic if they came to light in her new role, especially given the foundation's reputation for integrity." The implied threat hung in the air between them. Olivia's mind raced, trying to decipher Cooper's angle. Was he blackmailing her? Trying to protect Melissa? Or something else entirely? Melissa was completely transparent about her past during the hiring process, Olivia stated firmly. "The foundation believes in second chances. There's nothing to come to light that we don't already know." Cooper leaned forward slightly. "Are you certain about that? People rarely reveal everything, Ms. Turner. And Melissa's past includes associations that even she might prefer to forget." An uncomfortable suspicion formed in Olivia's mind. "You knew her before, in Chicago, or during her earlier time in Boston?" Cooper didn't confirm or deny this, merely maintaining his unsettling smile. Let's just say I have a vested interest in Melissa's welfare, and in ensuring that her past remains where it belongs, in the past. If you're threatening her in some way— Threatening? Cooper looked offended. Not at all. I'm merely suggesting that some chapters are better left closed, for everyone's benefit. Olivia reached for her desk phone. I think this conversation is over, Mr. Cooper. If Melissa has concerns about her employment, she can speak with me or Tamara directly. Cooper stood, straightening his already immaculate suit. Of course. Please give my regards to Ms. Washington and to Rachel Sandoval. I understand you're all meeting tomorrow evening. The mention of Rachel and their planned meeting sent alarm bells ringing in Olivia's mind. How could he possibly know about that? Good day, Ms. Turner, Cooper said pleasantly, heading for the door. I'm sure we'll speak again soon. After he left, Olivia immediately called Melissa's cell phone. No answer. She tried the foundation next, but Ellis informed her that Melissa had left early, saying she wasn't feeling well. A text message to Melissa went unanswered. Abandoning any pretense of completing her workday, Olivia gathered her things and headed for her car. Something about Cooper's visit felt fundamentally wrong. A threat disguised as concern, knowledge he shouldn't possess. Her instinct to protect both Melissa and the foundation propelled her across town to Melissa's apartment building. The doorman initially refused to let her up without Melissa's approval, but relented when Olivia explained it was an urgent foundation matter. Anxiety mounted as she rode the elevator to the 12th floor. What if Cooper had already been here? What if Melissa was in danger? Her knocks went unanswered. Just as she was about to call building security, the elevator dinged behind. Melissa stepped out, carrying grocery bags, her expression shifting from surprise to concern when she saw Olivia. What are you doing here? Is everything okay? Relief washed over Olivia. You're all right. I was worried when you didn't answer. Your phone. Melissa unlocked her apartment door, gesturing for Olivia to follow her inside. I turned it off after leaving work. Needed some quiet to process everything with Rachel. She set the groceries on a sleek kitchen counter. Why were you worried? Daniel Cooper came to see me at my office today. The effect of the name was immediate and shocking. Melissa's face drained of color, one of the grocery bags slipping from her grasp. Oranges scattered across the hardwood floor, rolling in different directions. That's not possible, she whispered. He's dead. He died in prison 3 years ago. Olivia felt her blood run cold. Who exactly is Daniel Cooper, Melissa? He was Jason's lawyer. Melissa's voice shook as she gripped the counter for support. Jason Miller, my ex, the drug dealer I told you about. Cooper handled all his business, legal and otherwise. He knew everything, helped Jason hide money and intimidated witnesses. She looked up, fear evident in her eyes. What did he want? He implied he was your lawyer, said he was concerned about your past coming to light at the foundation. Olivia picked up one of the fallen oranges, buying time to organize her thoughts. He mentioned our meeting with Rachel tomorrow. Seemed to be warning me off, but in a very roundabout way. This doesn't make sense, Melissa said, beginning to pace. Cooper was as dangerous as Jason in his way, smarter, more calculating. But he was only ever loyal to the money. Once Jason went to prison, Cooper disappeared. And when I heard Jason died, she stopped abruptly. Unless he didn't. Oh, God. Understanding dawned on Olivia. You never verified his death, did you? You just heard about it. Through mutual acquaintances. People who would have known. Melissa ran a hand through her hair, visibly distressed. But if Cooper is here now, that means either Jason sent him or Jason is here too, Olivia finished grimly. Melissa sank onto a bar stool, the full implications settling over her. Everything I've built, all the amends I've tried to make, it could all fall apart if they're back in my life. Or they could be trying to use your past to manipulate you, Olivia suggested, her analytical mind working through possibilities. Cooper knew about our meeting with Rachel. He's been watching you, gathering information. The question is why? What does he want? With Cooper, it's always money, Melissa said with certainty. But I don't have anything worth taking anymore. My salary at the foundation barely covers my expenses. Olivia leaned against the counter, thinking. But you were making good money at Preston Financial in San Francisco. Senior managers there earn substantial salaries. Something shifted in Melissa's expression. A fleeting shadow of guilt quickly suppressed. I donated most of what I earned. There. To charities working with domestic violence victims, to educational scholarships. It was part of making amends. Most, but not all, Olivia observed sharply. Cooper thinks you have money hidden somewhere, money that might have originally belonged to Jason. Melissa's silence was confirmation enough. Olivia closed her eyes briefly, disappointment washing over her. Just when she had started to believe in Melissa's reformation, another layer of deception emerged. I need you to tell me everything, Olivia said finally. No more partial truths or convenient omissions. If Cooper is targeting you, targeting us, we need to understand exactly what he's after. Melissa nodded, resignation evident in her posture. You'll want to sit down for this. It's worse than you think. Outside the apartment windows, dusk was settling over Boston, shadows lengthening across the city. As Melissa began her story, Olivia realized they were entering darker territory than she had anticipated when she first recognized that name on a job application. What had started as a personal reckoning between former roommates was expanding into something potentially dangerous. And somewhere in the city, Rachel Sandoval was going about her evening, unaware that tomorrow's coffee meeting had stakes beyond emotional reconciliation. Olivia reached for her phone, deciding Rachel needed to be warned. Whatever was unfolding, all three women were now caught in its web. Start from the beginning, Olivia instructed Melissa, settling onto the couch. And this time, don't leave anything out. The soft glow of Melissa's apartment lamps cast long shadows across the living room as she poured 2 glasses of water with hands that trembled slightly. Olivia sat waiting, her professional composure masking the turmoil of emotions beneath. Disappointment, concern, and a growing sense that she had underestimated the complexity of the situation she'd involved herself in. I never intended to lie to you, Melissa began, settling into an armchair across from Olivia. But there are parts of my past I've tried to bury so deeply that sometimes I can almost convince myself they never happened. Start with Jason Miller, Olivia prompted. Your ex-boyfriend, the drug dealer. You said he went to prison. Melissa nodded, her fingers tracing condensation on her water glass. He did. 10 years for drug trafficking and money laundering. The sentence should have been longer, but Cooper worked his magic in the courtroom, discredited witnesses, found technicalities. In the search warrants. And you weren't implicated? I was lucky, Melissa admitted. My name wasn't on any of the accounts they could trace. Jason kept me separate from the worst of it, not to protect me, but because he saw me as an asset, a clean front with no criminal record. Olivia leaned forward slightly. But there was money. Money Cooper thinks you still have. Something shifted in Melissa's expression, a calculus of how much to reveal. Then resignation. Yes. When I fled Boston after taking your rent money, I didn't just have that $2,500. I had close to $300,000 in cash. The figure hung in the air between them. Olivia felt her breath catch. Drug money? Jason's emergency fund. He kept it in a storage locker under a fake name. I knew about it because I'd helped him count it once. Melissa's voice grew quieter. When I realized I had to disappear, I took it. Not all of it. He had over $1 million stashed, but enough that he'd be furious if he ever found me. Olivia tried to reconcile this revelation with the remorseful woman who had offered to make amends. So, while you were stealing rent money from me, claiming you couldn't cover your share, you were planning to take hundreds of thousands from your boyfriend? It wasn't like that, Melissa insisted. I never planned to take Jason's money. But the night before I disappeared, he found out I'd been talking to a friend about leaving him. He beat me so badly I could barely walk the next day. Her hand moved unconsciously to her ribs, as if phantom pain lingered there. That's when I knew I had to get out immediately, and I needed enough money that he couldn't find me. Despite her skepticism, Olivia felt a pang of empathy. Why not just take his money? Why take mine too? Because I knew he'd check that storage locker within days of realizing I was gone. I needed clean money to establish myself somewhere new while I figured out what to do with the cash. Melissa met Olivia's gaze directly. It doesn't justify what I did to you. Nothing could. But I was terrified and thinking only about survival. Olivia processed this information, pieces clicking into place. So you took this money to California. What did you do with it? Kept it hidden for nearly a year, living off small amounts while working under the table jobs. I was too scared to use much of it, afraid it could be traced, afraid Jason would find me. Melissa's expression turned distant, remembering. When I finally felt safe enough, I used some to legally change my name, get a proper apartment, create a new identity with better credentials. And the rest? Initially, I invested in it, created offshore accounts using the tricks I'd learned from watching Jason and Cooper operate. By the time I landed the job at Wilshire Group, that $300,000 had grown to nearly $500,000. Melissa's tone carried no pride in this accomplishment, only a weary acknowledgement. Olivia felt her professional interest piqued despite herself. Substantial returns. I had learned from experts, Melissa said with a humorless smile. But after a few years, the guilt started eating at me. Every time I looked at my bank statements, I saw blood money, money that had come from addiction and suffering. That's when I started giving it away. The charitable donations you mentioned. Yes, women's shelters, addiction recovery programs, scholarship funds. I set up anonymous donations through a web of accounts that couldn't be traced back to me. By the time I decided to return to Boston, I had less than $100,000 left. Olivia considered this new information cautiously. It aligned with the remorseful Melissa she had come to know over the past weeks, yet the scale of these hidden activities was disturbing. And you think Cooper is here because of this remaining money? That's the thing. The money that's left is nothing compared to what Jason had. Cooper wouldn't bother for $100,000. Melissa leaned forward, voice dropping. I think he's here. Because of what I know. About their operation, their contacts, the places they hid the real money. Why would that matter now, years later? Melissa stood, moving to the window to check the street below. A habit Olivia now recognized as hypervigilance, from years of living in fear. Because if Jason isn't really dead, he might be rebuilding, starting over. She turned back to Olivia. And if he is dead, then Cooper might be taking over the business himself. Olivia felt a chill at the implication. Either way, you're at a loose end? Exactly. And now, so are you and Rachel. Guilt flashed across Melissa's features. I never should have come back to Boston, never should have tried to make amends. I've put you both in danger. We don't know that yet, Olivia countered, though uncertainty gnawed at her. Cooper made no explicit threats. He could have been testing the waters, seeing how much you've revealed about your past. Melissa shook her head emphatically. Cooper doesn't make casual visits. If he came to your office, showed his face, used his real name, he's sending a message, letting me know he's found me and that he can get close to people I care about. That phrase, people I care about, hung awkwardly between them, a presumption of connection that wasn't entirely earned. Yet Olivia couldn't deny they had formed some kind of bond over the past weeks, complicated as it was. We need to warn Rachel, Olivia said decisively, and we need to contact the police. The police? Alarm flashed in Melissa's eyes. With what evidence? A vague conversation with a lawyer? And how do I explain the stolen money without incriminating myself? The statute of limitations. Doesn't matter, Melissa interrupted. If I draw attention from law enforcement, Cooper will disappear again. And if Jason is truly involved, the danger only increases. She gripped her water glass tightly. There's a reason I never went to the authorities even after I thought Jason was dead. His network extended into the Boston PD. We can't trust the normal channels. Olivia felt frustration mounting. Years of operating within legal and ethical boundaries made Melissa's shadow world of criminal connections and hidden money difficult to navigate. Yet the fear in her former roommate's eyes was undeniably genuine. Then what do you suggest? She asked finally. I met with Cooper, Melissa said simply. Find out what he wants, what he knows. Absolutely not. That's exactly what he's hoping for, to get you alone, vulnerable. It's the only way to contain this, Melissa insisted. I created this danger. I need to address it directly. Olivia stood, pacing the apartment as she considered options. Her analytical mind, trained to solve complex financial problems, sought patterns and solutions in this new dilemma. Cooper mentioned our meeting with Rachel tomorrow, she said slowly. That means he's been watching you, possibly following you, maybe even monitoring your communications. She glanced meaningfully at Melissa's phone on the coffee table. Understanding dawned in Melissa's expression. She grabbed a notepad from the kitchen counter, scribbled something, and held it up. Apartment might be bugged? Olivia nodded, continuing to speak normally. We should proceed with the Rachel meeting as planned. Show Cooper we're not intimidated. Meanwhile, I'll have my security team at Morgan & Reed look into his background, completely legally and above board. She took the notepad from Melissa, writing, Leave now, talk elsewhere. Aloud, she said, It's getting late. I should head home and let you get some rest. We'll touch base in the morning before the Rachel meeting. The facade of normalcy maintained, they gathered their things and exited the apartment. Neither spoke until they reached Olivia's car, parked 2 blocks away in a public garage. Do you really think my apartment is bugged? Melissa asked once they were inside the vehicle. I don't know, Olivia admitted, but Cooper knew details he shouldn't have known. Either he has someone inside the foundation, which seems unlikely, or he's monitoring you somehow. This is insane, Melissa murmured, the reality of their situation settling over her. A month ago, I was just trying to make amends for past mistakes. Now we're talking about bugs and drug money like we're in some crime thriller. Olivia started the car but didn't put it in drive. You could leave, tonight, disappear again, start over somewhere new, and leave you and Rachel to deal with whatever Cooper has planned. Melissa shook her head firmly. I've spent years running from my mistakes. I'm done with that. Then we need a plan. A real one, not just meeting with Cooper alone. Olivia's mind worked rapidly, considering angles. You said the remaining money is around $100,000? Yes, in an account in the Caymans, untraceable to me. Could you access it quickly if needed? Melissa studied her curiously. Within 48 hours. Why? Because it might be what Cooper wants. A final payment to close the book on you. And if it isn't? If he wants information instead of money? Olivia tightened her grip on the steering wheel. Then we need to be prepared for that too. She drove them to a small 24-hour diner in South Boston, the kind of place where the waitstaff minded their own business and the booths were spaced for privacy. Over coffee and untouched pie, they crafted a plan. Not perfect, but the best they could manage given the circumstances. I still think we should cancel the meeting with Rachel, Melissa said as they finalized details. Keep her out of this entirely. That would only alert Cooper that something has changed. Better to proceed normally while we prepare. Olivia checked her watch, nearly midnight. I'll pick Rachel up directly from the hospital tomorrow. Make sure she's not followed. And if Cooper makes contact before then, stall. Say you need time to think. Don't commit to anything. Don't admit to anything. Olivia hesitated, then added, and stay somewhere else tonight, not your apartment. Melissa nodded, fatigue evident in the shadows beneath her eyes. I have a coworker who would let me crash on her couch. I'll make up some excuse about plumbing problems. As they prepared to part ways, an awkward silence fell between them. Their relationship had transformed yet again, from roommates to victim and thief, from interviewer and applicant to reluctant allies in an unexpected danger. I'm sorry for bringing this into your life, Melissa said finally. Again. You didn't bring Cooper here, Olivia replied pragmatically. He found you, and now we're dealing with it. She paused, weighing her next words. But after this is resolved, we need to have a serious conversation about your future at the foundation. Melissa accepted this with a solemn nod. I understand. They left separately, Olivia watching until Melissa's rideshare disappeared around a corner before heading to her own car. The city felt different now, shadows deeper, strangers more suspect. She found herself checking her rearview mirror repeatedly on the drive home, searching for signs of surveillance. At her penthouse, Olivia executed her portion of their hastily assembled plan. First, a call to Scott Winters, her PI friend, despite the late hour. I need everything you can find on Daniel Cooper, attorney, possibly connected to Jason Miller's drug operation in Boston circa 2013, she said when he answered groggily. And I need it by morning. It's urgent. Next, she accessed her home computer, using the secure connection to log into Morgan & Reed's systems. As CFO, she had authority to initiate limited security protocols without explanation. She arranged for additional security at the Foundation's building tomorrow and placed an urgent flag on Cooper's name in the visitor database. Finally, she opened a small safe hidden in her closet wall, removing a slim manila envelope. Inside was documentation of her own secret, one she had never shared with anyone, not even Tamara. When Maxwell Reed had offered her that lifeline 12 years ago, helping her keep her apartment after Melissa's theft, it hadn't been purely out of generosity. The Housing Assistance Program had come with an unspoken condition. Olivia's exceptional financial mind would be dedicated to identifying investment opportunities that skirted legal boundaries without quite crossing them. For years, she had helped Reed build a shadow portfolio that operated in regulatory gray areas, generating profits that never appeared on Morgan & Reed's official books. Olivia had justified it as the price of her rescue, of her meteoric rise within the company. But as her influence grew, she had slowly steered these activities toward legitimacy and eventually ceased them altogether. Reed, by then semi-retired, had allowed this evolution without comment. Their drinks arrived, creating a momentary diversion. When the server departed, Melissa took a deliberate sip of her coffee, her hand steady despite the circumstances. I never meant for any of this to touch either of you, she said quietly. All I wanted was to make amends, to show I'd changed. Have you? Rachel asked, the question carrying weight beyond their current predicament. Really changed, I mean. Melissa met her gaze directly. I've spent a decade trying to be someone better than the woman who stole from you. Someone who helps, rather, than harms. I can't undo what I did, but I've tried to balance the scales by helping others in similar situations. With stolen money, Rachel pointed out, having clearly deduced the source of Melissa's charitable funds. Yes, Melissa acknowledged. Dirty money redirected toward healing some of the damage people like Jason cause. It's not perfect justice, but it's something. A strange electricity hung in the air between the three women, former victims facing their betrayer, yet united by a common threat. Years of resentment and mistrust collided with the immediate need for solidarity. Cooper's entering, Olivia murmured, her gaze fixed on her coffee cup. Don't react. The door chimed as Cooper stepped into the cafe, impeccably dressed as before, his confident smile unchanged. He approached their table directly, as if they had been expecting him. "Ladies," he greeted them pleasantly. "Mind if I join you? I believe we have matters to discuss." Without waiting for an invitation, he pulled a chair from a neighboring table and seated himself at their fourth side, completing the square. His presence altered the energy of their gathering, introducing a predatory element that set all three women on edge. "Mr. Cooper," Olivia acknowledged coolly. "This is a private meeting." "Is it?" His smile widened fractionally. "It seems I'm the subject of your conversation, so perhaps I should participate." He turned to Rachel. "You must be Ms. Sandoval, the nurse, another of Melissa's former roommates with an unfortunate financial experience." Rachel's expression remained impassive, her years of dealing with difficult patients evident in her composure. "And you're the lawyer who helps criminals evade justice. We all have our roles." Cooper's eyebrows rose slightly, appreciating her directness. "Indeed we do. Mine currently involves resolving an outstanding financial matter with Ms. Davis." He shifted his attention to Melissa. "You've been quite generous with money that wasn't yours to give away." "What do you want, Cooper?" Melissa asked bluntly. "The remaining funds? They're ready to transfer. Just give me the account details." "A good start," Cooper acknowledged, "but insufficient. You see, what I require is a complete accounting of all the funds you redirected. Every account, every transaction. Jason is quite eager to recover his investment, with interest." The confirmation that Jason Miller was indeed alive and involved sent a visible chill through Melissa. "That's impossible. The money is gone, donated, spent over years." Cooper's genial expression hardened slightly. "Nothing is impossible when properly motivated. You have extensive financial expertise now, I understand. A respected position helping women manage their assets." The implied threat toward Melissa's foundation clients hung in the air. "Surely you can find creative solutions." "Leave the foundation out of this," Olivia interjected. "Those women have nothing to do with your business." Cooper regarded her with new interest. "On the contrary, Ms. Turner, the foundation's clientele represents an untapped market demographic. Vulnerable women with limited financial literacy but access to capital, perfect for certain investment opportunities." The insinuation was clear. The foundation could be repurposed for money laundering, its clients exploited. The thought turned Olivia's stomach. "That will never happen," she stated flatly. "No?" Cooper appeared unconcerned. "Consider your options carefully. Your own history with Maxwell Reed's special investment portfolio suggests flexibility regarding financial regulations." The reference to Olivia's secret past dealings struck with precision. How Cooper had uncovered this information was unclear, but its impact was undeniable. Olivia maintained her composure through sheer will, though she felt Rachel's questioning glance. "Threatening us in public seems unwise," Rachel observed, breaking the tense silence. "Especially given the security team watching us from across the street, and the two men at separate tables who haven't touched their coffee since you arrived." Cooper's smile didn't falter, but his eyes narrowed slightly. "Precautions noted, but unnecessary. This is merely a business discussion among acquaintances." He placed a business card on the table. "My expectations are simple. $1 million to settle Melissa's debt, due within 7 days." "That's impossible," Melissa protested. "Even if I liquidated everything, accessed every account, then be creative," Cooper interrupted smoothly. "Between Ms. Turner's financial connections and your own expertise, I'm confident you'll find a solution." He stood, buttoning his jacket. 7 days. After that, Jason becomes directly involved, and he lacks my professional restraint. With a cordial nod that belied the menace of his words, Cooper departed, leaving the three women in stunned silence. "He knows about Reed's shadow investments," Olivia said finally, the implications sinking in. That information is buried deep. And he wants far more than what I have access to, Melissa added, her face pale. This isn't about recovering stolen funds. They're using this as leverage to pull us into their operation. Rachel, who had remained remarkably calm throughout the confrontation, spoke with quiet authority. We need to contact the FBI. Today. Now. This has escalated beyond private resolution. The decisiveness in her tone captured both women's attention. Rachel continued, I understand your concerns about federal involvement, but Cooper just threatened 3 people in public, implied intentions to exploit vulnerable women, and demanded an extortionate sum. That's actionable. She's right, Olivia realized, her analytical mind cutting through fear to see the strategic advantage. Cooper's mistake was approaching all 3 of us together. One person's testimony might be dismissed. 3 professional, women with consistent accounts carry weight. But the risks, Melissa began, are unavoidable now. Rachel finished firmly. I have a daughter to protect. Running or hiding isn't an option. The mention of Rachel's child again shifted the atmosphere. Melissa nodded slowly, resigned and resolved to mingle in her expression. You're right. I've spent too many years running. And now I've endangered both of you and potentially others at the foundation. Decision made, Olivia contacted her security team, instructing them to secure transportation to the FBI field office. As they prepared to leave, Rachel turned to Melissa, her expression softening slightly. For what it's worth, I believe you've tried to change, to be better than who you were. The simple acknowledgement visibly moved Melissa. Thank you. That means more than you know. It doesn't erase the past, Rachel clarified. But maybe, after this is resolved, we can focus on the future instead. The FBI field office in Chelsea buzzed with activity even in the evening hours. Special Agent Marcus Rivera, assigned to their case, led them to a conference room where they spent hours providing individual statements. Melissa's the longest and most detailed, a complete confession of her history with Jason Miller. The stolen funds, her years of hiding, and Cooper's recent threats. This is potentially significant, Rivera explained after reviewing their statements. We've been monitoring increased drug trafficking operations in Boston with an unusual financial structure. Cooper's reappearance and Miller's involvement connects several pieces we've been tracking. Will you be able to protect them? Olivia asked, gesturing toward Melissa and Rachel. Cooper made explicit threats. We'll arrange security details immediately, Rivera assured them. Ms. Davis, we'll need you to continue communication with Cooper, under our guidance. A controlled money transfer might provide the evidence needed to move against both him and Miller. You want me to be bait? Melissa observed. Not as a protest, but as a statement of fact. In a controlled environment, yes, Rivera confirmed. With your consent and our constant protection. Melissa nodded without hesitation. I'll do whatever is necessary. This is my mess. I need to help clean it up. As they finalized arrangements, for the night, safe houses, security details, communication protocols, an unlikely camaraderie formed among the 3 women. Their shared history of betrayal had evolved into a united front against a common enemy. Outside the field office, as they prepared to depart in separate FBI-escorted vehicles, Rachel made an unexpected gesture. She reached for Melissa's hand, squeezing it briefly. Be careful, she said simply. We have unfinished business. Melissa nodded, emotion rendering her momentarily speechless. Olivia watched this exchange with a complex mixture of feelings, wariness still present, but now accompanied by something like hope. The road ahead remained dangerous and uncertain, but they would navigate it together. 3 women connected by an old betrayal now facing a new challenge side by side. As her car pulled away, Olivia gazed back at the federal building, illuminated against the night sky. Whatever happened next, nothing would return to how it had been before. Her carefully constructed life, Melissa's journey of redemption, Rachel's hard-won stability, all transformed by the reappearance of past ghosts. The next 7 days would determine not just their safety, but the shape of their futures, separate or somehow connected by more than just old wounds and new dangers. Dawn broke over Boston Harbor, painting the water in shades of gold and amber as Olivia stood at the window of the safe house apartment. 5 days had passed since their meeting with Cooper. 5 days of careful preparation, coordinated planning, and mounting tension. Today would determine everything. The FBI had transformed the luxury condo into a command center, filling it with surveillance equipment, communication devices, and agents posing as maintenance staff. From this vantage point, 12 stories up, Olivia could see the waterfront restaurant where the operation would unfold in exactly 4 hours. She heard soft footsteps behind her and turned to find Melissa approaching, 2 coffee mugs in hand. The days in protective custody had left visible marks, shadows beneath her eyes, tension in her shoulders. But her resolve remained steady. "Agent Rivera just confirmed everything's set," Melissa said, offering one of the mugs. "Jason arrived in Boston last night. They tracked him to a hotel downtown." Olivia accepted the coffee with a nod of thanks. "Have they seen Cooper?" "Not yet, but they're certain he'll be at the meeting. He's too controlling to let Jason handle this alone." Melissa joined her at the window, gazing at the restaurant below. It feels surreal, after running for so long, to deliberately walk toward them. "You don't have to do this," Olivia reminded her. "The FBI has enough from our statements to pursue charges. You could still walk away, enter witness protection." Melissa shook her head firmly. "And spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder? No, I want this finished, completely, definitively." She paused, sipping her coffee. Besides, witness protection would mean leaving the foundation, leaving... She didn't complete the thought, but Olivia understood. In the short time since going to the FBI, unexpected bonds had formed. The safe house had initially housed all 3 women, though Rachel had been relocated after 2 days to be closer to her daughter, who was staying with Rachel's mother under FBI protection. During those 2 days of close quarters, walls had begun to crumble. Shared danger had a way of accelerating intimacy, of stripping away pretenses and old grudges. "How's Rachel this morning?" Olivia asked. Nervous but ready. "Her part is minimal, but crucial." Melissa's expression softened. "She showed me pictures of her daughter yesterday. Emma. She's beautiful. Has Rachel's eyes." The 2 of you seem to have reached some kind of understanding. Melissa considered this. Not forgiveness. Exactly, but something like acceptance of the past and of who we are now. She turned from the window to face Olivia directly. "What about you? Where do we stand?" The question hung between them, complex, weighted with their tangled history. Olivia took her time answering, measuring her words carefully. "I don't know yet," she finally admitted. "I've seen genuine change in you these past weeks. Your willingness to confront Cooper and Jason, to protect the foundation, to make things right with Rachel. It matters. But trust takes time to rebuild. Once broken..." "I understand." Melissa nodded, accepting this measured response. "Whatever happens after today, I want you to know that meeting you again, seeing the remarkable woman you've become despite what I did, it's been both humbling and inspiring." The moment was interrupted by Agent Rivera entering the room, his expression focused, professional. "The wire's ready for final testing, Ms. Davis, and we need to review the money transfer protocols one more time." Melissa straightened, setting down her coffee mug. "I'm ready." As she followed Rivera to the improvised tech station across the room, Olivia returned her attention to the harbor. Somewhere out there, Cooper and Miller were preparing for the same meeting, unaware that their attempt to reclaim stolen money and silence a witness would instead lead them into a meticulously crafted trap. The Atlantic Pearl restaurant occupied prime harbor real estate, its outdoor deck extending over the water for unobstructed views of the sea and sky. At midday, it bustled with business lunches and tourists, the perfect blend of public safety and private conversation opportunities. Melissa sat alone at a corner table on the deck, positioned exactly as the FBI had instructed, visible from the entrance but partially shielded by a large umbrella. Her navy blue dress had been selected for the wire concealed beneath it, the statement necklace housing a secondary recording device disguised as costume jewelry. Her hair was styled differently than usual, looser, softer, making her appear more vulnerable, less guarded. Every detail had been choreographed to project exactly the image they wanted Cooper and Miller to see. A woman cornered, desperate, and ultimately controllable. Olivia watched from inside the restaurant, seated at the bar with sparkling water, disguised by sunglasses and a scarf around her hair. Agent Rivera occupied a table near the door, while other agents were positioned as waitstaff, neighboring diners, and pedestrians along the harbor walk. Rachel waited blocks away in a surveillance van, monitoring communications and ready to corroborate any statements about the money's origins if needed. At precisely 12:17, Cooper entered the restaurant. He paused at the hostess stand, scanning the space with practiced casualness before spotting Melissa on the deck. As he moved toward her, Olivia fought the urge to stare directly at him, instead watching his reflection in the mirrored backsplash behind the bar. Cooper was alone. Unexpected. Concerning. Jason Miller was supposed to attend this meeting. His absence disrupted the carefully constructed plan. Olivia touched the small communicator in her ear, tuned to the FBI frequency. "Target 1 has arrived solo," Rivera's voice murmured in her ear. "Maintain positions. Green team, locate target 2. On the deck, Cooper reached Melissa's table, his trademark smile firmly in place as he took the seat across from her. Though Olivia couldn't hear their conversation, she could see Melissa's performance through the glass doors, the nervous adjustment of her necklace, the tense smile, the subtle body language of someone trying to appear confident while internally terrified. The script they had rehearsed called for Melissa to present Cooper with documentation of offshore accounts, electronic access credentials, and wire transfer capability for the $1 million. A fabricated sum cobbled together from legitimate Foundation emergency funds, to be returned immediately. Olivia's personal assets temporarily transferred, and FBI operational resources. The money would be traceable, allowing authorities to follow it directly to Miller's network of shell companies and hidden assets. But Miller's absence complicated everything. Without him physically present, half their evidence connecting Copper to the drug operation would be circumstantial. They needed both men together, explicitly discussing both the money and its origins. 15 minutes into the meeting, Olivia saw Melissa implement their contingency signal, reaching up to tuck her hair behind her left ear twice in succession. Something was wrong. Cooper wasn't following the expected script. "Teams stand by," Rivera's voice came through the earpiece. "Potential deviation from target behavior." Through the window, Olivia watched Cooper slide a folder across the table. To Melissa. This wasn't part of the plan. He was supposed to be receiving documents, not providing them. Melissa opened the folder with visible confusion, then visible shock, her composure slipping genuinely for the first time. "What's happening?" Rachel's voice asked through the communication system. "Unknown," Rivera replied tersely. "Maintaining surveillance." Unable to contain her concern, Olivia abandoned her post at the bar and moved casually toward the outdoor seating area, positioning herself at a table near enough to overhear fragments of conversation carried on the sea breeze. "Never about the money," Cooper was saying, his voice low but clear. "Jason wants you back in the operation. Your financial skills have significantly since—" Melissa's response was too quiet to catch, but her expression reflected genuine alarm. "Not a request," Cooper continued. "The documentation is prepared. New identity already established. Departure tonight." The realization struck Olivia with chilling clarity. This wasn't about extortion at all. Miller wasn't planning to kill Melissa. He wanted to forcibly reincorporate her into his expanding operation, using her legitimate financial credentials and expertise to launder money on a scale far beyond what they'd managed before. The demand for $1 million had been a test, a way to assess her capabilities and connections. Olivia caught Rivera's eye across the restaurant and gave a subtle hand signal they had established. Abort backup plan, implement primary protocol immediately. Rivera nodded almost imperceptibly, touching his earpiece to relay commands to his team. The next 60 seconds unfolded with practiced precision. 2 waiters approached Cooper from behind. A tourist couple rose from a nearby table, positioning themselves to block potential escape routes. Rivera himself moved toward the deck, badge already in hand. What no one anticipated was Melissa's reaction. As the FBI agents closed in, she suddenly stood, eyes fixed on something behind Olivia. Following her gaze, Olivia turned to see Jason Miller himself standing at the restaurant entrance, his expression hardening as he registered the orchestrated movement of agents throughout the space. Before anyone could react, Miller pulled a gun from beneath his jacket, a shocking miscalculation in such a public venue. Patrons screamed, diving beneath tables as he fired a single shot toward the ceiling. "Federal agents, drop your weapon!" Rivera shouted, his own gun drawn. In the chaos that followed, Olivia lost track of Cooper momentarily. When she spotted him, again, he was vaulting over the deck railing onto the harbor walkway below, abandoning Miller without hesitation. Agents pursued their coordinated movements, suggesting they had anticipated this possibility. Miller, however, wasn't fleeing. Instead, he moved with singular purpose toward Melissa, gun now trained directly at her. The cold calculation in his eyes made his intentions clear. If he couldn't reclaim his asset, he would eliminate her. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. Olivia found herself moving before conscious thought formed, years of kickboxing training translating into pure instinct as she launched herself between Miller and Melissa. She heard Rivera shouting, felt rather than saw other agents converging, but her focus narrowed to the gun, to Miller's finger tightening on the trigger. The impact came from her left, not a bullet but a human force. One of the undercover agents tackled Miller, sending his shot wide. It shattered a glass partition as both men crashed to the deck. 3 more agents swarmed Miller, subduing him with practiced efficiency, while Rivera pulled both Olivia and Melissa to safety behind an overturned table. "Are you hit?" he demanded, eyes scanning both women for injuries. "No," Olivia managed, adrenaline making her voice shake. "We're okay." "Cooper?" Melissa asked urgently. "In custody," Rivera confirmed. Tried to commandeer a boat. Harbor Patrol intercepted him 50 yards out. Outside the restaurant, sirens wailed as backup converged on the scene. Patrons were being escorted safely from the building, the immediate danger contained. Miller, now handcuffed and surrounded by agents, glared at Melissa with unconcealed hatred. "You're dead," he spat as they led him past. "No matter where they put me, you're dead." Melissa, still processing the chaotic events, found her voice. "No, Jason, you're the one who's finished. For good this time." In the surveillance van blocks away, Rachel had heard everything through the audio feeds, including Olivia's instinctive move to protect Melissa. When the 3 women reunited at FBI headquarters hours later, Rachel embraced Olivia fiercely. "That was either the bravest or stupidest thing I've ever heard," she said, voice thick with emotion. "Thank you." "Not my most strategic decision," Olivia admitted wryly. "But I couldn't just stand there." Rachel turned to Melissa then, hesitating only briefly before embracing her as well. "And you did well." The simple acknowledgement brought tears to Melissa's eyes. "I'm sorry for everything, Rachel. For the years you lost. For Emma growing up with struggling instead of stability. For—" "Stop," Rachel interrupted gently. "Today isn't about the past. You helped bring down people who hurt countless others. That matters. Agent Rivera entered the conference room where they waited, files tucked under his arm and satisfaction evident in his bearing. "Cooper's talking," he announced without preamble, offering everything he knows about Miller's operation in exchange for considerations. "Will it stick this time?" Olivia asked. "No technicalities, no legal maneuvers to get them released?" "The charges are substantial and multi-jurisdictional. Drug trafficking, money laundering, attempted murder, criminal conspiracy." Rivera ticked them off on his fingers. "Plus, evidence recovered from Cooper's phone and hotel room connects them to 3 cold cases our organized crime division has been working on for years. They're not walking away." Relief washed over all 3 women, the tension of the past weeks finally beginning to dissipate. Melissa sank into a chair, the enormity of what they'd accomplished settling over her. "What happens now?" she asked quietly. "For us, I mean." "Protective details for a few more days as a precaution," Rivera explained. "Formal statements, probably some testimony when this goes to trial. But essentially," he smiled slightly, "you get to go back to your lives." The simplicity of that statement belied its complexity. What lives would they return to? How have recent events transformed those lives? The questions hung unspoken among them. 6 months later, the Foundation for Financial Empowerment hosted a private reception celebrating the launch of its newest initiative, a specialized program providing financial and housing support for women escaping domestic violence. The rooftop garden of the Foundation's building offered a spectacular view of Boston at sunset as donors and community partners mingled, champagne glasses catching the golden light. Olivia, elegant in emerald silk, moved through the crowd with practiced ease, having mastered the art of social fundraising during her years at Morgan & Reed. She paused beside a display outlining the program's structure and implementation, admiring the clean design and clear messaging. "The graphics were Emma's idea," Rachel said, approaching with 2 champagne flutes. She offered one to Olivia. "She said the butterflies represent transformation. Pretty insightful for an 8-year-old. She gets that from her mother," Olivia replied, accepting the drink with a smile. "How are her piano lessons going?" "Painfully for everyone within earshot," Rachel laughed. "But she's persistent. Reminds me of someone else I know." She nodded across the rooftop where Melissa stood deep in conversation with a state senator, advocating passionately for expanded housing subsidies. The past 6 months had brought significant changes for all 3 women. Olivia had made the surprising decision to leave Morgan & Reed, accepting a substantial pay cut to become the Foundation's full-time CFO. The move had raised eyebrows in financial circles, but felt right to her, a chance to apply her expertise toward meaningful change rather than merely accumulating wealth. Rachel had joined the Foundation's board while maintaining her nursing career, her unique perspective on financial recovery informing policy decisions and program development. Her daughter Emma had become the unofficial mascot of the Foundation, brightening the office with occasional after-school visits. And Melissa, perhaps the most transformed of all, had been officially named Director of Client Services following the successful conclusion of her probationary period. The trial of Cooper and Miller remained months away, but her cooperation had already resulted in the disruption of multiple criminal enterprises and the recovery of millions in drug profits, now being redirected to community programs. "Senator Matthews seems impressed," Olivia observed as they watched Melissa work her persuasive magic. "That could mean significant funding if she champions the expansion bill." "Melissa's good at this," Rachel acknowledged. "She understands both sides, the desperation that leads to bad choices and the structures needed to create better options." Their conversation paused as Tamara Washington approached the small podium set up near the roof's edge, tapping her glass for attention. The crowd quieted, turning toward the Foundation's executive director expectantly. "Thank you all for coming tonight," Tamara began, her commanding presence drawing every eye. What we're celebrating isn't just a new program, but a new understanding of how financial empowerment and personal safety intertwine for vulnerable women. As she continued outlining the initiative's goals and early successes, Melissa made her way through the crowd to stand beside Olivia and Rachel. The three women formed an unconscious triangle, connected yet distinct, each bringing unique strengths to their shared mission. And none of this would have been possible without the extraordinary leadership of our new executive team, Tamara was saying. Olivia Turner, Rachel Sandoval, and Melissa Davis, whose personal journeys informed every aspect of this program's development. I'd like to ask them to come up and share a few words. As they moved forward together, Melissa whispered, "Did you know she was going to do this?" "No," Olivia murmured back, "but we should have expected it. Tamara loves putting people on the spot." Standing before the assembled donors and partners, looking out at faces filled with admiration and support, Olivia felt a profound sense of rightness. The path that had brought her here, beginning with the shock of Melissa's betrayal 12 years ago, could never have been predicted or planned. Yet somehow, it had led to this moment of purpose and connection. When she stepped to the microphone, the words came naturally. "They say that a crisis reveals character. What I've learned is that it also creates opportunity. To rebuild, to reimagine, to transform pain into purpose." She glanced at Melissa and Rachel flanking her. Sometimes, the people who challenge us most ultimately lead us to our greatest strengths. And sometimes, second chances offer wisdom that first chances never could. As applause rippled through the gathering, Olivia stepped back, making space for Rachel to speak next. The three women exchanged glances, acknowledging without words the extraordinary journey from betrayal to partnership, from victims and perpetrator to collaborators in something meaningful and lasting. Their shared past would always be part of their story. But standing together on that rooftop, looking toward the city skyline aglow with possibility, it was their shared future that beckoned, complex, challenging, and unexpectedly hopeful. Looking for more? We've got two amazing stories ready for you right on screen. If this one touched you, these are absolutely worth your time. Click to watch them now. And hey, subscribe and hit that bell to never miss our latest uploads.